Okay. The reality is that if you say it's common sense, you cannot say you are wrong. If you say it's not common sense, we also cannot tell you are wrong. Okay, so how do we settle the matter? Originally, managing a project is not too far from common sense. Managing a project is not too far from common sense. I like the way Mr. Mujalil put it. But don't forget that common sense is not common, in quotes. Because technically, we all manage projects, regardless of whatever hats we wear, whatever title we bear, whatever roles we play. We all manage projects. And out of 1,000 people who manage projects, barely would you find 5 who would have gone through structured project management education. So would you now say that only those 5 are project managers? The truth is, we all manage projects one way or the other. And we all have some level of base intuition that we use to get these things done. Like I said, you have some money, you want to spend it on something. You don't need a PMI to tell you that don't waste money. You need a PMI to tell you that, okay, finish on time. You need a PMI to tell you that, okay, involve the right people. You don't need PMI to tell you that, okay, if you need cement, go and procure cement. You know, it's not until you read the textbook on procurement management that you know you're supposed to go and buy cement if you need cement. You don't need a book on stakeholder management for you to know that you want to deal with your team members, you want to deal with your vendors, you want to communicate with your sponsor. Maybe you might not know some of all these technical terms, maybe you might not know this fanciful English, but we all do these things. We all do these things one way or the other in what we do. Now, the question is, whoever is doing this thing, okay, Mr. Kolawole, whoever is doing managing projects in quotes this way, can we not call him a project manager?
It's not possible. It's a project manager.
You said what?
It's a project manager.
Project manager.
It's a project manager.
You understand? But then there's a question. The question is, there's a Mr. Kolawole somewhere in Lagos. He has been doing his own thing, his own way for 20 years. Using his common sense and the common sense of his boss that is shadowing, And one way or the other is getting results. And he has been doing that for 10 years. He doesn't have PMP. Maybe he has not even heard of PMP before. But one way or the other is getting results. And then maybe you have a Mr. Mujalil somewhere who's in another sector entirely. And then he's also doing his own thing. Maybe he never even had a project management until he joined his company. And then in his company, he has one boss, he's following the boss to sites, he's following the boss to plants, The boss will tell you, no. When you are talking to vendors, use this method. When you're talking to something, use this method. And then over time, he's building his knowledge base of content, of knowledge, of experience. And then there's a conference. Before that conference, let's even assume that Mr. Mujalil, Mr. Kolawole did not even learn from their bosses. One way or the other, they can use their own intuition. At least we have some basic instruction, we have some basic codes in our brain, in our mental whatever. And then trial and error trial and error. Use this method, it works. Use this method, it doesn't work. Use this method, it works. Use this method, it doesn't work. And then over some 20 years, 15 years, 10 years, you've been able to have some set of, this is how I get things done if I want to get things done. Just based on your own intuition, based on your own experience. Maybe we can cut down on some level of common sense. Now picture a situation where Abdul Jalil in Lagos is in a conference with Olayinka from Oyo State. It's a conference with Kolawole from Abuja. Conference with Alako from Port Harcourt. Conference with Kaizin from Kano. Conference with Ibrahim from Benin. Conference with Abdullah from Niger. Conference with David from Cross River. Abdulaziz from Sokoto. And then they have a 5-day conference wherein they all come and submit their various common senses. Or let us look at it on a global level, when you have like 500 project managers, experienced project managers, 45 years experience, 40 years experience, 36 years experience, 27 years experience, 22 years experience in healthcare, IT, construction, oil and gas, blah, 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 all here and there. And then they are coming, so the person from Brazil is saying, I have 36 years experience in construction. This is how I get my things done. I don't have any formal project management experience, but I have been managing projects for 36 years. I have built 36-story building. I've built 156-story building. I've managed the whole system end to end. Of course, I didn't start with this level of competency. I have failed multiple times. I have had, lots of, and then after, I kind of balanced after 6, 7, 8 years. And since then, I've built a system that works. Here is my presentation of what works. Well, in my industry, in my country. And then somebody raises his hand and says, sorry, Mr. Book, out of all what you said, it also works like that in my country, but this area doesn't work like that in my own country. In my own country, we do it this way, blah, blah, blah. And somebody says, okay, Mr. Cook from Belgium says, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you very much. I like how you've been doing your things. But in my own industry, I am from the IT industry. This is how we do our things. This is how we do our things. And then somebody raises his own hand and says, oh, no, I'm also from the IT industry. I'm from Africa. I'm from Morocco. This is how we do our things. And it works. We get things done. And then you have Olayinka from Nigeria says, I'm from the IT industry. If I follow that method, it wouldn't work in my country. Because in my country, we have this peculiarity, we have this peculiarity, we have this peculiarity. And then you have a scribe who is noting things down. Construction industry, okay? He has gotten what works for somebody in Brazil, what works for somebody from Belgium, what works for them in Sudan, what works for them in US, what works for them. And then, packing all the common senses of everybody, packing all the common senses, picks from this industry, picks from this industry, the common senses of the working common senses of people from this industry in this part of the world, part of this world, part of the world, part of the world, part of the world, and then packs the working common senses of people in another industry in various parts of the world. And then you now come up with a compendium of working common senses. In fact, there are instances in which there are conflicts. And then they now sit down, some set of experts now sit down to now reconcile. It's practically impossible to come up with any general principle, any set of principles that would be able to work anywhere, any industry, any country, any locality across the world. It's not possible. Because there'll be so much of conflict between the peculiarities of this region, the peculiarities of this region, the peculiarities of this region. There'll be so much of conflict. But they say, okay, well, can we at least agree on some generic principles? We wouldn't go into too much detail to give you A, B, C, D, E, F, G kind of instruction that we would use across all locations, across all industries. No, that wouldn't work. That's too detailed. But at least can we give you some generic instructions to say that, okay, I want to escort you from 0 to 75%. I leave you to figure out the last 25% to take care of the peculiarities of your industry, peculiarities of your location. So that's what PMI has done.